6 picks. That's all that stands between the Cleveland Browns and a decision that could define this franchise for the next decade.
So when we
6
talk about
picks,
player
and then
development,
Andrew
one of the
Berry
things
walks up to that podium
everyone-
and hands it a name that either changes everything or haunts this fan base for years. And right now, nobody knows which way this is going. The board is wide open, the rumors are flying, and honestly, that's exactly why we need to talk about this today. Because this isn't just another draft pick. This is number 6 overall. This is franchise cornerstone territory. This is the kind of selection that separates teams who are perpetually almost there from teams who finally break through. And Cleveland, we've been almost there long enough. So let's get into it. Let's really get into it. The noise started picking up the moment Deion Sanders opened his mouth. Coach Prime looked straight into the camera and said, and I'm paraphrasing here, that Jordan Tyson I asked that guy. His exact words were that Tyson's mentality makes him that one. Now, when Deion Sanders, a Hall of Fame cornerback who has forgotten more about evaluating talent than most people will ever know, tells you a receiver is built different, you stop scrolling. You pay attention. Because that kind of endorsement doesn't come from somebody who's just trying to get their guy drafted. That comes from genuine conviction. And when you actually watch Jordan Tyson play, it makes total sense. He's 6 feet 2 inches, 200 pounds, out of Arizona State, and the man is everything Cleveland has been missing at the wide receiver position. We're talking about a guy who hauled in over 1,000 yards at the college level and dropped exactly 1 pass last season. 1. That's not a stat, that's a personality trait. That's a guy whose hands and focus are completely locked in when it matters most. You want to know what a WR1 looks like? It's a guy you trust on 3rd and 6 with the game on the line. It's a guy you throw the back shoulder fade to in the red zone and never flinch. That's Jordan Tyson. His route running is already polished for a college receiver. His catch radius is exceptional. He wins contested balls. He creates separation when the coverage is tight. On pure talent alone, there is no debate. This kid has all the tools to walk into Cleveland and immediately become the alpha this offense has been screaming for. But, and this is a big but, we have to talk about the injury history. Because if we're putting 6 picks worth of franchise capital on the table, we cannot ignore this. In 2022, Tyson suffered ACL, MCL, and PCL damage. That's 3 of the most significant ligament injuries a skill position player can face, and he dealt with all of them at once. And then in 2025, recurring hamstring issues crept back in. That's a lot of physical wear and tear before this man has taken a single NFL snap. And look, players recover. Players overcome. Some of the greatest receivers in NFL history have come back from devastating injuries and gone on to have Hall of Fame careers. But when you're drafting 6th overall, you need more than hope. You need confidence. You need certainty. And Tyson's medical history introduces a level of uncertainty that makes every Browns decision-maker earn their paycheck this spring. So what do? Do you bet on the talent and trust the medical staff? Or do you look elsewhere? Here's where the conversation splits into multiple directions, and this is what makes this pick so genuinely fascinating. Because the Browns don't just have one option here. They have several legitimate paths forward, and every single one of them makes sense depending on how the board falls. Let's talk about trading down first, because I think this might actually be the underrated move that people aren't discussing enough. If Cleveland slides back, let's say from 6 down to 11 or 12, the capital they'd collect could be massive. An extra second-round pick, maybe a future first, suddenly this draft haul looks completely different. And here's the thing, the receiver class is deep enough that if you drop back a handful of spots, you're very likely still looking at a high-end target. Carnell Tate is a name that deserves more attention in this conversation. Strong hands, reliable route running, the kind of receiver who wins when a game is being decided. Not quite the buzz of some other names, but the production and dependability are real. And then there's my lemon. And this guy might actually be the most exciting name in the entire receiver conversation. The buzz around Lemon is growing by the day. Scouts are talking about his shiftiness, his work ethic, his ability to line up everywhere and create mismatches in space. Some people are putting him at the top of the receiver class entirely. If Cleveland trades down and Lemon is still on the board, that's not a consolation prize. That might actually be the win. But we can't talk about this pick without addressing the elephant in the room. The name that some scouts, some serious, respected scouts, are calling the best football player in this entire draft class. Not the best receiver. Not the best defensive lineman. The best football player. Period. Caleb Downs. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. The safety? At number 6. In a draft where we desperately need offensive help? Hear me out, because the argument here is stronger than you might think. Last season, Downs put up 68 tackles for pass breakups, 2 interceptions, 2 forced fumbles, and even got home for a sack. That is a complete, well-rounded performance from a safety who can do everything you'd want from that position at the NFL level. He is physical. He is instinctive. He has the football IQ that coaches drool over. In a defense that wants to press man coverage, play cover one, and be physically dominant, a tackling safety who can also play in coverage and create turnovers is extraordinarily valuable. And some insiders aren't just saying he's the best safety. Some are using language that goes even further, calling him the kind of prospect you only see once every several years at the position. Best case scenario? He transforms the back end of Cleveland's defense for the next 10 years. Worst case? He's a quality starter from day one. That floor-to-ceiling combination is rare. You don't just walk away from that. But, and here we go again with the buts, does taking Caleb Downs at 6 actually move the needle on the biggest problems holding this roster back? You're still staring at an offensive line that needs reinforcement. You're still missing that number 1 receiver who can take the top off a defense and give your quarterback a legitimate go-to option. Solving your secondary, as valuable as that is, doesn't put points on the board. It doesn't protect your quarterback. It doesn't give Cleveland the offensive identity this team needs to be taken seriously. That's the tension. That's the chess match playing out in Andrew Berry's mind right now. And speaking of the offensive line, let's not sleep on Fono and Maui Noa in this conversation. The front office has to look at the trenches because nothing works without protection. Your receivers don't get open if your quarterback is running for his life. Your running game doesn't develop if defenders are in the backfield before the handoff. The offensive line is the foundation, and Cleveland knows it. The question is whether round 1 is the right place to address it, especially in a draft that isn't considered a particularly elite class at that position. Here's something that actually gives Cleveland real leverage in all of this, though. The defensive depth in this draft is significant. You've got impact defenders expected to fly off the board early. Names like David Bailey, Reuben Bain, Caleb Downs, Sonny Styles, a real wave of defensive talent that teams are going to want. And if the clubs drafting ahead of Cleveland go heavy on that defensive talent, you know what happens? Offensive players start to slide. Receivers who were projected to go in the top 10 might still be sitting there at 6. Offensive linemen who should have been gone might still be available. That's leverage. That's a front office that can sit back, watch the board develop, and react from a position of strength rather than desperation. And here's the part of this conversation that I think every Browns fan needs to sit with for a second. Cleveland holds 2 first-round picks this year. 2. That is not a luxury most teams have. That is the kind of draft capital that allows you to think in multiple layers. You address defense in round 1 with 1 pick. You circle back to offense with the other. Or you flip both toward offense. Or, and this is where it gets creative, you package picks, trade into a different spot entirely, and build this roster in a way nobody saw coming on draft night. The flexibility this front office has is genuinely exciting if they use it right. Now let me say something that I think is important for context here, because it reframes how we should think about this entire process. The previous draft class? Cleveland absolutely nailed it. The best player available philosophy, trusting talent over positional need, worked. The roster improved. The foundation got stronger. That's not an accident. That's a philosophy that builds sustainable winning football teams over time. You stack great football players, and eventually the depth and talent become undeniable. It doesn't happen overnight, and that's frustrating for fans who want results right now. But the process is working, and that matters. Of course, patience is a hard sell when you're a Browns fan. You've seen too many false dawns. Too many drafts that looked great on paper and fell apart in practice. Too many first-round picks that never became what they were supposed to be. I get it. The urgency is real. The desire to see this team compete, not build, not develop, but compete right now, is completely understandable. You want a functioning offensive line. You want a legitimate number 1 receiver. You want to watch Browns games in January with something real on the line. That hunger is why you're here watching this video, following every single draft rumor that comes out between now and draft night. So let's bring this all the way back to the moment that matters. Cleveland is on the clock at number 6. The board in front of Andrew Berry looks something like this. Jordan Tyson is available, talent undeniable, injury history real. My lemon is there, buzz building, versatility elite. Caleb Downs is sitting right there, and scouts are having conversations about him that they don't have about most prospects. Offensive linemen Infono and Maui Noah are potentially still on the board. And somewhere in the background, the phones are ringing from teams who want to move up. What do? Do you take Tyson and bet on the upside, trusting the medical staff to keep him healthy and letting that receiver talent finally unlock this offense? Do you trade back, collect capital, and still land Lemon or Tate at a lower cost? Do you go best player available and select Caleb Downs, trusting that great football players make great teams regardless of position? Or do you reinforce the trenches, build from the offensive line out, and give your entire offense a chance to function the way it was designed to? Every answer is defensible. Every answer carries risk. And that right there is what makes this pick feel like one of the most important decisions this franchise has made in years. This isn't just about adding a player to the roster. This is about defining what the Cleveland Browns are going to be. This is about sending a message to the rest of the AFC about what kind of team is being built on the shores of Lake Erie. The front office has the capital. They have the flexibility. They have the options. Now it's about reading the board correctly, blocking out the noise, and making the move that sets this program on the right trajectory. No more rebuilding. No more almost. The time is now. So I want to hear from you. If you're sitting in that draft room at 6, what name are you handing in? Are you taking the talent and trusting the process? Are you trading down and playing the long game? Are you going best player available, even if it means leaving offensive needs on the table? Drop it in the comments right now, because this community has some of the sharpest football minds I've come across, and I genuinely want to know where you stand. If you're not already part of Browns Breakout, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because when draft night hits and things start moving fast, you're going to want to be here for every update, every reaction, and every breakdown in real time. The 6th pick is coming. Cleveland's moment is here. Let's go get it. Go Browns.